Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, and thank you for joining this very first info session, the Scrum info session powered by BNET Learning. It's the first one for 2021, and we are excited to have you all join today. And from BNET, we want to wish everybody a happy new year and I'm looking forward to a great 2021. My name is James Adebayo, and I'm the Director for Growth and Marketing for BNET Learning. And I'll be your anchor and host for this info session. The agenda for today is quite simple and straightforward. We'll have a bit of introduction, of course. I will have the pleasure of introducing our speakers, and then we'll go right into the presentation. The presentation will cover, amongst many, sort of brief history and overview of Agile, some comparison between Agile and the traditional project management framework or methodology, being waterfall, and then we'll go to what really is Scrum. We're going to look at the why, the how, and the what of Scrum, including roles, events, and artifacts. And then we're not going to leave you hanging. We're going to ensure we give you some information around Scrum certification, the pathway to achieving Scrum certification, whether be it as a product owner or as a Scrum Master. And then we'll look at some information around career options. But then moving to experience sharing, because we can give you all the textbook analysis of Scrum, but our speakers will also share with you their own experience and journey as they implement Scrum across multiple organizations. And before the top of the hour, we will open up to question and answers. And please, we want this info session to be as interactive as possible. Please continue to share those comments and questions with us. And we look forward to providing answers and insight through this info session. Some quick housekeeping stuff. All attendees on this call are muted, so you would not be able to speak, but you would be able to share with us comments and questions using the chat box. So please, I implore you to make use of that opportunity where you could just go right into the chat box and put some comments and some questions, and we'll be sure to take them during the course of this info session. And so to start off, we'd like to know those joining us, and I can see we have quite a number of attendees already. I would like to know where you're joining us from. So if you do not mind, kindly put in your name, the city you're joining us from, and your country in the chat box. So kindly put in your name, the city you're joining us from, and also your country in the chat box. Please, for myself, James, I'm joining from Calgary, Canada. So please go ahead and put in your name, the city and the country you're joining us from. I can see a few already. Yemi Olani is joining from Lagos, Nigeria. I can see Bukola is joining from Lagos, Nigeria. Sabrina from Texas. It's just flying, guys. This is really great. Christy from Mexico, Rabat from Morocco. People all around the world joining. Really appreciate that you could join. And also, as we go ahead with this info session, if you want to tell us why you like to know about Scrum, we will appreciate that also. Without further ado, I would like to go ahead and sort of ask you and put right out there what is in it for you. What is in it for you for this session? You're going to have insight from experts. Our speakers are knowledgeable. I can promise you that. You're going to have insight on Agile and looking specifically on Scrum from experts. We also want you to know that for this info session, we would be able to provide you continuous development unit. We would make arrangement by email to send you the process of you being able to impute that continuous development unit for any of your professional certifications. And then, of course, there's an opportunity for attendees on this call to be able to get a free Scrum Fundamental certification. So there's opportunity for you folks to get that free from BNET Learning. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our two speakers. The main speaker would be my friend and one of the lead trainers from BNET Learning, Damilola Owasheye. Damilola Owasheye is a certified business analyst professional. He holds certification also both as a product owner and as a Scrum Master. And Damilola is also certified Lean Sigma 6 Belter. So we're talking about somebody who really knows his onions right here. Damilola is very passionate and has helped many organizations around the world to implement Agile framework and is here today to share some insight with you. I'm sure you will enjoy his perspectives on Agile and especially on Scrum. And again, we have our very own, the founder and CEO of BNET Learning, John Ojura-Bisa, on the call today as a co-speaker. John needs no introduction. John is a certified business analyst professional and a strong entrepreneur. John was part of those that led the establishment of IIBA in Nigeria and continue to do so even now in Canada. John had worked for quite a number and supported a lot of organizations in building capacity around business analysis, project management, product implementation. And I'm sure you're looking forward to hearing John speak on the topic of Agile and Scrum. Those are the two presenters today, and I will not hold you back from enjoying what they have today. And I'll pass it on to Dami to start off this presentation. And in the course of this presentation, we'll also have John sharing some perspective. That's it for today. And Dami, I pass it over to you.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be here to share with you some knowledge, rub minds around Agile and Scrum. I see some of the comments and I find them quite interesting. Some people want a refresher, some just want to get themselves better, and I assure you that coming in here today, you're going to have, access to all that and more. And just to reiterate what James had said, we would like for this to be a lot collaborative, even if you cannot speak. We'd like to read your thoughts, your questions, your comments as we go. And in between, we're going to have some time for questions. So please keep those questions coming, and then we are sure to find answers together. So let's go right into it. Agile, overview and history. What exactly is Agile? In a very layman term, it is the ability to move fast and quick in an easy way, right? It is marked by the ready ability to move with quick ease and grace. Why is that important in project delivery or product delivery? It's important because today projects are limited or suffer certain kind of challenges that are a bit unpredictable, right? No matter the amount of planning you put up front, you realize that you need to always be able to respond to uncertainties as you go along, right? So Agile is that iterative approach to project management that values human communication and feedback. Very important. Communication and feedback. It values adaptability and has a very strong focus on valuable outcomes. Valuable outcomes. We are not just implementing Agile because we want to implement Agile. It has a very strong focus on valuable outcomes. We are going to talk a bit more around that. Some people think Agile is a buzzword, and then they think Agile is defined by their practice of Agile ceremonies or events. But the truth is, Agile is an approach that has evolved into several groups of methodologies that demonstrate a commitment to tight feedback cycles and continuous improvement. It's a mindset. It's a set of values that will live on a day-to-day and we try to bring to our project delivery. Let's go in a bit more. Now, let's talk about some history of Agile. What led us to Agile, right? Before now, in the 70s, the very strong methodology was the predictive methodology, the traditional methodology, the waterfall methodology. That's the same name for, three names for the same thing. There were a lot of inadequacies that, attended that methodology. The chief of which was you plan heavily at the start because you have an idea of everything you want to do. You cannot factor or legislate for uncertainties, right? And then you keep going on around your plan, implementing, trying to deliver, and then you are not able to deliver value to the customer or to the client until the end of the project. And you get to the end of the project, the client says to you, oh, my priorities changed 3 months ago. But you had no way of getting that feedback when the priorities changed because you thought you had your plan, tight and all worked out. So there was that frustration, basically for everybody, the stakeholders within the project cycle. That frustration led a group of 17 thought leaders to meet somewhere in the United States. And the outcome of that meeting was the Agile Manifesto. The Agile Manifesto. We are going to talk about the Agile Manifesto. Agile today has, spread across the tech industry, has cut across into so many other industries as we are going to see as we go along, right? So the effort of these 17 thought leaders, of course, collaborating with others who also had suffered this kind of frustration and wanted a better way of doing things, has led us to the birth of Agile. Like I said, Agile is look at it like a big umbrella with so many frameworks under it. Some of the frameworks you can see on your screen: Scrum, the rapid application development, the extreme programming, the DSDM, the feature-driven development, and of course the pragmatic programming. All lightweight methods of delivering results. Right, let's go a bit into it. Just a bit of timeline for you. In the 1970s, waterfall model was created, and it reigned for such a long time. Of course, the waterfall model is not dead, is not abandoned, but I mean, it held sway for such a long time, right, unchallenged. And that's just to tell you that sometimes when things don't work, or when we don't stop to reflect around things can just continue to go on the way they are, unchallenged. So in 1991, some people conceived the idea of, lightweight ways or different ways of doing things. So the idea of Scrum was conceived. In 1995, a presentation was made at a conference where they tried to codify Scrum and put it into use, right? In 2001, we had the Agile Manifesto, which was an offshoot of that meeting I had mentioned earlier. Just some timelines for us to have a bit of an idea. So let's talk about the Agile Manifesto. Right, so at the end of the meeting, or the meeting of the 17 thought leaders in the United States, I said we came across the Agile Manifesto, or they came out with the Agile Manifesto. What exactly is the Agile Manifesto? So it came out this way. I'm going to try to describe it to you so that we have a fairly good understanding. So they came out to say, we are uncovering better ways of developing software. I want you to identify some keywords. Uncovering better ways, right? Keywords of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. Keyword, helping others to do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That simply says to you, we know that processes and tools are important, but sometimes if we look very closely, processes and tools can slow us down, right? And we don't want to be slowed down. We don't want to be caught in the web. So let's place more value or more premium on individuals and interaction. What does that mean? It means that, for instance, on a project, I'm going to be comfortable to walk up to you to say, look, what do you think about this? Let's sit down, let's discuss this around, instead of saying, oh, do me a lengthy email to be sure that everything is properly captured. Without that, we are not having a meeting, we are not discussing this small issue across this project, right? So we are saying individuals and interactions over processes and tools. The second value, working software over comprehensive documentation. That ties back to the example I just gave. See, our mindset in Agile is to say, we want to bring something that works as quickly as possible. We are not going to be bothered or bogged down by the comprehensive documentation until you dot all the I's and cross all the T's and get all the approvals and get everybody's is nodding and smiling and everything is detailed. We cannot start writing any software. No, Agile says, look, can we just start with what we know from where we are, from the amount of clarity that we have, and start building a working software. Don't forget, we had mentioned earlier that Agile is rooted in software development, but it has spread across. And these are values that you can take everywhere. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation, right? That jumps at you. I mean, I've got those questions a lot of times. Oh, you talk about Agile, accommodating change, being open to change. What happens if the change that the customer is bringing or the client is bringing is so much different from what we had already planned? Who is going to pay for it and all of that? We are not saying don't negotiate contract, but we're just saying listen to your customer first, hear them out, see the value in what they are bringing. Place more value, more premium on collaborating with your customer than you place on saying, let's negotiate the differentials first before we touch your project. That's one of the things that came out of that. And then, of course, responding to change over following a plan. That simply says to us, there's no rigidity, no space for rigidity in Agile. So this is what we call the Agile Manifesto. Yeah. So I hope you got a bit of understanding. I'm sure some questions will come out of that and we can dig a bit deeper into it. So moving on. I mentioned earlier that Agile is a set of principles, something that is a way of life, is a mindset, right? Is something about transformation, right? And when you look at this set of principles that are called the 12 Agile principles, and you look at them very closely, you understand that anyone that does not live these values or does not live them to the full has not yet, cannot successfully say I'm agile or I practice agility. Or do you understand, right? You can't wear that tag. That you don't have that bragging right if you don't understand that all of these things are stuff that transform you first of all, and of course transform the team that delivers the product, the agile team. Right? Look at the first principle there. Greatest priority is to meet the customer's requirements through early and continuous delivery. Keyword, early and continuous delivery. We must always place priority on that, right? We want to meet the customer's requirement, not just at the end, not late, not everything lumped together and delivered once, in one big chunk with a lot of, potential, mistakes and feedbacks that we couldn't take into the development process. But early delivery of customer requirements and continuous delivery of customer requirement. That's a mindset thing that you can take into any industry, IT, anywhere, just think about it. Imagine, how can I delight my customer by early and continuous delivery? That's the agile mindset. I'm not going to run through all of this. Look at number 7. Working software is the key measure of improvement. We talked about something at the beginning, right? Agile has a very strong emphasis or focus on valuable outcomes. You must be able to tell at the start, where are we headed? What is the outcome? And that is what keeps us motivated on the entire journey as we try to build a product or try to deliver services or whatever it is. Working software. We can't get to the end of our plan or our schedule and say, what have we produced? Are we sure we have delivered or not? You see, the best measure is a working software, a working product, a working, service. Right. I'm going to move on from this to talk about agile and traditional project management. Let's do a bit of comparison. Let's check. Right. So the waterfall model is very sequential and linear. What that simply means is you go step by step. You finish one before you go to the next. If you don't complete your requirements, you cannot do designs, because someone has to sign off on the requirement. Everybody has to agree. Everybody has to be sure that all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed, as if we live in a straitjacketed world. All the requirements have to be gathered before you start any design. Don't do any designs until you have gathered all requirements. The same thing, you cannot do any form of verification until implementation is done. So we go step by step, by step by step. You know what this does? It means that the client doesn't get any value until the end of verification, when you go to production or you finish the entire work. That's the time the client gets to see his work for the first time, and he says, oh, like I said earlier, my priority changed 3 months ago. I wanted this to look a bit different. And when those things come, what typically happens is you have to go back to requirements again and gather all of the requirements to say, okay, what actually changed? And then let's go through the process again: requirement, design, implementation, verification, some sort of limitation. You have to do a lot of upfront planning and in-depth documentation, contract negotiation, and I don't want to sound as if the waterfall model is entirely a disaster. No, that would be wrong. The waterfall model is useful for simple and unchanging projects where you know that for my movement from A to Z is clear, is fixed, is not likely to change much. The level of uncertainty and risk is not very high. We've done it before. We are very clear on what we need to do. We can go the waterfall model. But then what in this world today has no form of uncertainty one way or the other? That's a question you need to ask yourself. And that's where Agile comes in handy. Well, that's why Agile becomes very, very useful. Agile is in continuous cycles. We can take a big elephant and deliver it in chunks, in small chunks of continuous cycles. And we can apply the requirements gathering, the planning, the design, the development, the release, and the tracking and monitor on small chunks of the big elephants that we want to deliver, right? Agile is characterized by small, high-functioning collaborative teams. And then, like I mentioned earlier, like we saw in the previous screen, multiple methodologies, a big umbrella. You could pick any of the methodologies or any of the frameworks to run with, right? It is flexible and has the continuous evolution. You see, if you read the 12 principles of Agile, you will know that if you read it and understand it and internalize it, you will know that at no point would you come and say, oh, I'm completely agile. You see, that itself is anti-agile mindset, because there's always something to improve. There's always something to do differently. And the most powerful thing about Agile is the customer involvement. You are getting feedback. You are including their feedback in your development process. You see, at the end of the day, you are coming out with something that the customer can own, can call their own. It's not strange to them. So, that's just some comparison between Agile and Waterfall. Some more comparison, shall we? Right. Agile and traditional project management. Look at the emphasis. In Agile, the emphasis is on people. The people. That's why you have to collaborate with the customer. That's why you have to, manage the Agile team in a certain way. that places premium emphasis on people. In traditional project management, it's about the processes. This is what our process says. You must, whether it's working for the customer or it's not working for the client, we want to argue our processes first. I cannot change it. That's the process that works for us and all of that. And we leave our customers or the voice of the customer frustrated, right? They almost do not have a voice, right? Let's look at it from the organization standpoint. In Agile, the Agile team is self-organized, empowered. Why? Because everybody in an Agile team is supposed to be motivated, first of all, and then we know that there are people that are doing valuable work. They themselves know they are doing valuable work, and there are people that are ready to bring their A game, right? So self-organization, we don't need to bring so much external influence and so much external pressure. And I've seen that very counterproductive. You see, an Agile team that understands what they need to do, they want to build this fantastic product, they can innovate around the idea and continue to spin things and come up with something so powerful. And then someone somewhere in a position of authority wants to say, no, that's not the idea I have. This is the idea I have, and everybody sticks by it. What automatically happens is you kill the zeal of the team. You tell them to pocket their creativity and their innovative spirit. And on the long run, that never works for any organization. I'm sure you can relate with that. So in the traditional project management space, you want to manage the team. You want to, be in charge of everything as a project manager. Be seen, be heard, and all of that. But I mean, those are some of the differences between Agile and traditional project management. Let's go on. Right, one more difference. So in traditional project management, we talk about the triple constraint: the cost, the schedule, the scope. Scope is so important. As a traditional project manager, you are saying, I don't want scope creep. I don't want my scope to, change or to suddenly become enlarged, because it's going to have impact on cost. It's going to have impact on schedule. Very true. But in Agile, our focus is on value. Right. We are not fixated on the scope. We are focused on the value. If the new thing the customer is bringing is going to deliver more value for them, then let's have some conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's hear you out. Let's see how we can help you deliver more value. Right. So that's the key difference between both. Right. Let's talk about success rates between Agile projects and waterfall projects. I mean, see for yourself. Look at the failure rate. This is a result of some survey conducted by the Standish Group and released in 2017. See, 8% failure rate for Agile projects, 21%. Look at the success rate, almost twice, that of waterfall. It speaks for itself, right? I mean, this is a reason why we should all go and become a bit more agile, right? Yeah, so key differences. I like this analogy. Very interesting. If I were to build you a car, how would you feel if I built one wheel and rolled it to your house and delivered it to you and say, oh, can you have this? I started working on your car. You would feel, this is so useless. This is not what I want. How does this help me? Oh, I decide to make it 2 wheels. I roll it to your house. It doesn't give you any value. No value. Oh, I decide to build the body, part of the car. I bring it to you. You can't do anything with it. It's not valuable. It's not so valuable, right? And then until I give you the entire car before you begin to see some sense of value. And remember, Agile is focused on delivering valuable outcomes every step of the way, right? And engaging the customer. But how would you feel if I came to you with a skater, first of all? Oh, you test it and you say, you are able to tell me, oh, the weight doesn't hold well enough. Can you add some more density or some more strength to it so that it can hold my weight properly? I get that feedback. I go and build that into the next phase. I come with you with a scooter that is stronger than the first one I brought to you, and you say, yeah, this works. It's just that the sitting position, the handle, you give me some kind of feedback, and I take that feedback, I build it into the bicycle that I'm bringing to you next. You see, at every point, you are getting some kind of value, and I'm getting some kind of feedback that I can take into the development process and continue to evolve. That is the beauty of Agile when properly practiced. Until I bring you the car, you have an idea what I'm bringing to you. You are clear because you have been part of the process, and that's what Agile brings us every step of the way. Now look at this. I mean, you can tell. There are two different things. Pulling a whole big mountain at once and building it and pulling them down in chunks. They are so. Which one is more energy sapping? I'm sure you can tell. I'm sure you can tell. They speak for themselves. Right. So Agile everywhere. Agile. Do you understand? Or can I put it to you that Agile has become part of our everyday life? If you look around today, there's agility in business. There's a business agility, agility in HR, agility here, agility in marketing, agility in sales, and all of that. Now, I believe that people who are pushing those things understand that Agile is actually, first of all, the mindset that wants to deliver value, that wants to collaborate, that wants to place more premium on quick delivery of early and continuous delivery to the customer. And that says to you, Agile is everywhere and in everything we do. For you to even understand it more, take your mind back to the example we just finished around the car, building the car. If I come to you and I'm giving you some continuous kind of value, I'm sure you feel happier than giving you something that you cannot use, that I cannot even bring to you. That is why Agile is cutting across everywhere, and that is what is going to continue to happen. And across, like I said, the Agile being a big umbrella, right? There are several frameworks: the Kanban, the Scrum, the LESS, and the SAFe framework. But which is the most popular framework? Clearly, the Scrum framework, right? We are going to talk about the Scrum framework more, but I don't know if there are questions. I would like to hear your thoughts or your questions on what you have shared so far. Anyone?
Thank you, Damilola. We do have a number of questions already from the attendees. Some of the questions are on certification. Some of the questions are also around what they need to do in terms of acquiring experience. But the most relevant one that we'll take for now is the one from Abe Sharma. Abe Sharma says, recently I was promoted to handle a team, and I'm trying to understand and acquire better skill for the same to get maximum impact. One of the things you've said, Damilola, is around motivated teams within Agile. How can you help Shama in helping our team deliver more or getting them motivated and embracing the Agile mindset?
Right. Thank you for that question, Shama. At the base of it all is knowledge. First of all, knowledge is fundamental. The right knowledge is fundamental. You see, change is difficult in itself, but change that is driven by knowledge, that is driven by the knowledge of, understanding your current system, your current structure, the factors influencing the way people are behaving or delivering or going about their day to day, and a bit of empathy around the challenges they are going through, and then being able to relate, to say, see, look, I know where you are. I know if we get to the next stage, we can be much more better. So knowledge is foundational to it. There's a lot of coaching as well, which is still knowledge, if you ask me. And then that is what leads to some kind of transformation, personal transformation, individual transformation, that leads to team transformation and organizational transformation. So knowledge is fundamental.
Awesome. Thank you, Damilola. We do have a second question that I would just like us to take, and I know time is of the essence, but this is from Emeka on Noah. This question is from Emeka, and he says, how can Agile be deployed to performance management in HR? And I believe this is coming from your slide that says Agile everything. So if we're doing Agile in HR, in sales and marketing, how can we deploy Agile within the performance measurement management within the HR circle?
Right. So we mentioned earlier that Agile has a very strong focus on delivering valuable outcomes, right? One of the first places you want to check is, what exactly do we put in our KPIs? Are they valuable outcomes, or are they things that we've always run with as an organization? We need to start checking, first of all. If in HR we understand that we can get involved as an organization in certain activities that don't deliver value to the clients, then we can separate them and start shaping our KPIs, our BSCs, or whatever it is, our measurement within the organization around valuable outcomes. So again, you cannot do that if you don't have the right knowledge. That's the truth. You cannot do that. Knowledge within the HR team, first of all, and of course, that knowledge precipitating across the organization is very powerful to drive performance management.
Thank you, Dami. We'll continue with the presentation, but just to tell everyone on the call today, please, if you have questions, kindly type in the chat box and we will take your questions. We've received questions from Angela Utsin. We have questions from Oluyemi Olani, questions from Meral Chiva. Apologies if I didn't get the name right, but we do have questions from you. We would capture those questions and post definitely to our speaker as we go ahead in the presentation. So Dami, you can go ahead with the presentation. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So let's talk about Scrum. What is Scrum? So much noise about Scrum, so much, Scrum everywhere. You see, Scrum is the most popular Agile framework for delivering projects. It has all the essential qualities of adaptability. It is iterative. It is fast, flexible. See, for me, that flexibility is what makes it powerful. The fact that we understand that we can bend backwards and not break, and still deliver for the customer. Flexibility, no rigidity, zero rigidity is what characterizes Scrum. And of course, it's an effective framework designed to deliver significant value quickly. Wow, I like to give an example here about delivering value quickly. Two organizations, financial organizations, right, in one country. One of them started, designing an innovation that would have made them take the lion's share, something that was innovative, novel, that had not happened before in that country, right? But they got bogged down with, internal processes, agree, approve, all of those things, budgets, whatever, everything you can think about. And then a few months down the line, the other organization, a second organization, that understood what valuable outcomes, meant, saw the value in this thing and said, look, you know what, let's go for it. Let's do it. And what happened? They did it first. They went to market first. They took a very large chunk of the market. And when they rolled out to the market, the first organization that started it were still, they were not ready. They were not there. They lost market share. That speed, that adaptability, for an organization is what Scrum brings, right? A key strength of Scrum lies in its use of cross-functional, self-organized, and empowered teams. Let me just quickly talk about that. Cross-functional means that everybody within the team has all the skill sets that we need to deliver on what we are trying to deliver. We have all the skill sets we need within the team to deliver what we need to deliver. So to answer the HR question again, you're asking yourself, how cross-functional are your teams, that you set up within the organization? If you want to understand cross-functionality, you need to understand Scrum, okay? Self-organization, an empowered team. Very many managers today find it difficult to let go. They want to continue the command and control method, the management 1.0 that doesn't get anybody anywhere. Empower your teams. Let them, set the boundaries within the organization, and then let them fly within the organizational boundaries, of course. And you will see strong innovation. That is what Scrum encourages, right? It encourages us to divide and execute our work in short, concentrated work cycles called sprints. I'm going to talk a bit more about the sprint in the following slides. But how useful is Scrum? How powerful is Scrum? According to the 14th Annual State of Agile report, Agile methodology, that is the Agile methodology that is mostly used, or the framework that is mostly used, is the Scrum framework. 58%. I know majority can be wrong, but I mean, look at it. 58%. Add every other use or every other framework users together, they don't add up to everybody using the amount of people using Scrum. It shows you how powerful it is if it is well used, if it is well understood. Let's talk about the Scrum process quickly in 1 minute or two. Right, within an organization, we have the vision, we have our ideas. In fact, we have our portfolio, we have our mission statement, whatever. We want to make money, and then we break all of that into, projects or portfolios or whatever. And then we say, this is a vision we want to accomplish as an organization. We start to write down the components that, if delivered, we make that vision realistic. We write them down in form of stories. We call those user stories. When you understand Scrum, you understand how to write user stories, right? All of those user stories are pushed into the product backlog, right? Because they're trying to create a product, right? It might be, I can even say, I can extend it to services. We're trying to build a service or trying to build a product, but some user stories, some things that if we achieve this, we know that we have delivered on what we want to, what our vision is. So we push all of that into a product backlog. Think of a product backlog as a very big, bucket that can contain everything, all your thoughts, your ideas, your opinions, your fears, everything. Just put them there. Like, okay, when we deal with all of this, we have a solid product, right? Now, in implementing the product, because Scrum teaches us to develop or deliver in chunks, we agree short cycles of delivery called sprints, like I mentioned in the previous slide. It could be between 2 to 4 weeks. I don't want to go into so much details around all of this, but within the 2 to 4 weeks, whatever it's agreed, whatever works for the organization, you take a small chunk out of the product backlog and you put it into the sprint backlog and say, for the next 2 weeks, this is what we want to focus on. This is what we want to deliver. So you even define your valuable outcome before you start. It's not, we are running a project. The project is supposed to last for 8 months, and we don't have clear deliverables per milestones. Okay, we can focus for 2 weeks or 4 weeks and deliver something valuable. And every day we have what we call the Daily Scrum, where we are checking on ourselves. We are measuring our progress towards the goal that we have set up for ourselves as a result of what we have picked into the small sprint backlog. So the sprint backlog is like a smaller bucket, right? At the end of the sprint, we come up with some kind of increment or some kind of new functionality that we did not have before, right? That aligns with the goal that we set for ourselves in the sprint backlog. During that 2 weeks window, we have what we call the retrospective, where we sit down. Right? First of all, we have the sprint review, where we sit down with the product owner and every relevant stakeholder and say, how do we do on this sprint? Come and see what we've wasted 2 weeks on, or we spent the last 2 weeks on. Again, in HR, this is a way that you can improve performance and performance measurement, right? Don't wait until the end of the year before you do a performance review. No, it doesn't work, right? Check in every 3 months, check in every 1 month, whatever works. See, there are three months goals that we have set for ourselves. Let's check in 3 months. How are we doing, right? That has a way of jolting everybody again to say, you know what, let's get going. So we do sprint review where we get valuable feedback. And then the Scrum team has its own time, to introspect or to retrospect and check, okay, what did we do well? What can we do better? And all of that. There's a lot on this screen that we cannot exhaust within the time that we have, but just to give us an idea. So Scrum has roles, events, and artifacts. Basically 3 roles: the development team, the product owner, and the Scrum Master. 5 events: the sprint itself, a container of many events. It contains the sprint planning, the daily Scrum, the sprint review, and the sprint retro, right? 5 events. 3 artifacts, the product backlog. What are artifacts? Valuable outcomes. The things that we know at the end of the sprint, these are the things that we are coming up with, or things that, you know, let me just call them valuable outcomes. The product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment, right? Within the Scrum team. What are the benefits of Scrum? Why should you learn Scrum? Why is Scrum important? So many benefits. See the screen. I can't delve into all of it, you know, but if you look a bit towards the right, you see early delivery of high value. Early delivery of high value. I cannot overemphasize that. You see, you are in competition, first of all, with yourself. Everybody likes to say that, but the competition in the market out there is real. If you come first to the market, you know, you take your share and you move, right? The ability to deliver early can be something that distinguishes your organization if you practice Scrum, you know, the way it should be practiced. Motivation, I talked about it a bit, you know, the daily stand-up, the way we measure our progress, our progress with respect to the goal that we have set for ourselves on a daily basis, Effective deliverables, Scrum can make us customer-centric. We can build a very high trust environment because Scrum has certain values, right? You know, respect is one of them. You can't be a Scrum practitioner or an Agilist if you do not respect your team members. Okay, collective ownership. I've seen too many examples of people not taking ownership of their responsibility and projects fail, right? Scrum teaches us on a daily basis to, you know, collectively own what we are trying to deliver. And of course, continuous delivery of value. So many advantages of Scrum, so many that we cannot, you know, exhaust in this room, right? Now that we've introduced you to Scrum, we've talked about Scrum a bit. Let's talk about Scrum certifications and career options. What are the things?
Damilola, probably just to take a bit of 1 minute to go through some of the questions again, because we do have a lot of those questions coming through, and to be sure that we don't miss so many of them, and some of them are quite relevant to some of the things you've mentioned. I'll take this quick one from Maral. Maral says, to be more marketable and have more job opportunities, would you need to get certified in less, safe, Scrum, Kanban, or just pick one and concentrate in that? Do you need every of those skills or certification in those areas, or you can just pick one?
I think I'll let John speak to that. John, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, great question right there. There's something called the Ikigai, you know, in the Japanese world, Ikigai. I recommend that you look it up. Now, so you could actually have skills in something, but nobody's willing to pay you for it, right? So ultimately, your skills and your knowledge are not so valuable if nobody's willing to actually engage you and pay you for that skill and knowledge. Now, so some of the data that Dami shared, or that Damilola shared earlier, showed that over 58% of adopters of Agile use the Scrum framework. Now, so if I want to prioritize and start from somewhere for Scrum to grow my Scrum skills and competencies, it makes sense to start with Scrum, right? To ensure that I'm marketable. You know, the job market is highly saturated right now, very competitive, right? So if I want to start, I'll start with Scrum. Scrum is even easier to learn, to understand. The principles are so easy. Now, so as I scale my knowledge and take on more complex initiatives, I can go with the scaled Agile framework, which is safe, right? Or the large scale, you know, Scrum, LESS, and others. But Scrum is the ideal starting point for you when you want to get into Agile. So think about the market opportunity. Think about the jobs. I think that's probably a good answer.
Fantastic answer, John. Thank you so much. I mean, that just does justice to the question. And I hope Mara understands.
And James, I see that he has another question around certifications.
Yes.
You know, how do I actually scale up? I know Dami has a plan to talk through the hierarchy of certifications. Again, there are different types of Scrum certifications out there, but the knowledge is fundamentally the same. So there are different organizations. We have Scrum Studies, Scrum.org, Scrum Institute, Scrum Alliance. but all of the resources, all of the frameworks that they actually promote, all of the ideas and everything are all based on the Scrum body of knowledge. So it's essentially the same. So when Dami comes to that image of the certification hierarchy, we'll probably get some more ideas around certification there.
Yeah, and we do have quite a number of questions around that, and I'm sure Damilola will be able to speak to that. Just one more quick question before we move through that. Ibrahim Mofu was asking a question around, is data analytics skills essential for Agile? Is data analytics skills essential for Agile? John and
Yeah,
Dami.
very. Dami spoke about the power of feedback. I really relate Agile to a lot of experimentation. And what are experiments without data about the outcome of your experiments? So the ability to quickly iterate through continuous cycles is very much dependent on getting data, right? So if we have rolled out a new product to the market, say a new cell phone, I want to know how people are using it, the different market segments are using it in what ways, what features do they use the most, which one should we focus on and prioritize for our next version of the product? We definitely need data. So there's no way we can talk about Agile without talking about the power of data and analytics in that space, for sure.
Awesome. I'll quickly take this last one. I know we will press for time, but I really like this question coming. I think it's coming, I believe, from Mara. She said, and this is based on the fact that we said Agile is self-motivating teams. How do we motivate the developers to participate more in Scrum ceremonies like Daily Scrum and retros? How do we encourage developers who are just really focused on getting the job done to participate in some of these Scrum ceremonies?
Yeah, you see, continuous coaching, servant leadership. You are not trying to come across like a policeman or trying to enforce or shove things down your throat. You have to. You don't want to come across like you must participate in all of these things. You see, servant leadership, coaching, understanding why they are struggling to participate. A bit of empathy is the way to start, right? Because you cannot move people. See, the Scrum Master is some kind of leader, right? And leadership, to my mind, and I'm sure a couple of people will agree with me, is the ability to move people from where they are to where they should be, okay? But if you don't understand what is keeping them where they are, you cannot help them move willingly to where they should be. So empathy is a very strong, tool, to use alongside with your coaching. You have to understand and engage a lot. Why don't you want to participate in this event? What are your concerns? And then through empathy, we can demystify all of those, assumptions in their mind. Don't forget that agility or Agile is about mindset and trying to own the right mindset. The reason why people hold back and don't want to participate in this event could be from a mindset position, okay? So if the mind is transformed with valuable knowledge, with all of the tools of a Scrum Master has at his disposal, and of course some coaching, you see, it becomes easy, it becomes natural, and people will willingly participate in these things. But let's not go across and say, I come across like, oh, if you don't participate in it, you're going to make the team fail. That's a command and control style. It doesn't work. It's anti-agile. Okay, that's one of the challenges I've seen in the workplace, where people want to say, okay, it's a company policy, you must participate in daily stand-up. Then they just come and they don't really participate. They just pass time or mark time. Okay, so empathy and a bit of coaching would help.
And James, I see some conversations in the chat which are really, really nice. I like to see them. Agile transformation for any organization will most likely fail if it's bottom up. If it's just a few people, James and Angela and Mercy and Emeka and Alex trying their best in their own small teams to make the change, bottom up. If Agile transformation happens top down and bottom up and midway, it's more likely to succeed. What that means is that our overall enterprise framework, right, our reward systems and compensation models are aligned to how we practice agile or agility, right? From the CEO to the developers to the testers and support folks, everybody actually buys into that mindset. Like I said, it's not just another methodology to use. It's first the mindset, right? So that changes a lot of things. Behaviors and rewards are pretty much aligned. If you reward a bad behavior and you're saying you want a good behavior, you're not going to get good behavior ultimately, right? So top down, bottom up alignment, everybody's aware. Of course, start with the knowledge. What are the benchmarks out there? What are the ideal ways to actually be agile, be truly agile? And that goes a long way. I see Alec mentioned the idea of becoming an evangelist. Yes. In organizations where change is often resisted, what do? You can't tell me to be agile if I don't see you practice agility. If I see you actually pushing back on customer suggestions and feedback around a particular feature that wasn't really well done. You can't tell me you're agile and encourage me to also be agile. To be a true evangelist of anything, you must first mirror and show the values, those principles, make them come alive yourself. You might not necessarily have formal definitions and titles, you might not be a Scrum Master. You might not have stand-ups every day yet, but you can actually have those agile principles and behaviors reflecting you, and they will ask you, how come you achieve all of these good outcomes? You then tell them why, essentially, but we can get into more of this later on.
Thank you, John. And I want us to move on, but I really like what Dami said about the fact that we need to collaborate with them. We are not a policeman sort of waiting on them and saying you have to do this. And John rightly said it's about value. And you can't give what you don't have. You have to show that you are indeed rewarding the principles and values of Agile, and ensuring that you're modeling it in that way. So thank you, John. Thank you, Dami. Let's move into the benefit of certification and some information around the certification pathway. So I'll let you continue the presentation, Damilola.
Yeah, we've been looking at this slide for a while. I'm sure everybody has internalized this. The benefit of certification. For me, the way I say it just says to the global community that this guy, this girl, or this woman, or this lady, apologies, represents certain kind of value. Okay, that's the power, and of course, the earning advantage, the increased earning advantage, and all of that cannot be overemphasized. And then the transformation you also experience when you go through the learning process, the transformation process. Sometimes, right, it's like an immersion. You go in and then you come out differently. Like, wow, I see so many ways. If you go through a proper Scrum class, you would suddenly begin to question things within your organization. Like, why exactly do we do this? It happened to me. And everybody felt like, what's wrong with him? But I experienced that immersion just by going through a certification class or some webinars or some trainings, and I started to question everything. And you know what? Those questionings have led to serious transformation, first within my own team, and of course within the larger group in the organization. Those are some of the benefits that I just want to mention. So let's talk about this certification hierarchy. The Scrum study certification is what we are focused on in this room that I want to talk about. Of course, John has mentioned that there are so many bodies, right? Scrum study. They have the Scrum Foundation certification. Is free. You can go on, attend an online course, and anyone interested in learning about Scrum can jump into that. If you might just want to take this conversation forward, and we can help you get that journey started, right? Then we have the Scrum Developer certification, right? Some people would make us believe that Scrum is just for the Scrum Master and the product owner. Remember, we talked about the Scrum team, also including the development team. If the members of the development team understand how Scrum works, trust me, we are on your way to better delivery, right? For the Scrum Advanced Master certification, right? It is optional to have the Scrum Developer certification, right? So you can see the arrows that indicate the legends that indicate what is optional but preferred. I mean, you could go straight and write the SAMC, or you could write the SDC first. The same thing applies to this SMC. You can go through the SDC part and write the SM before you write the SMC. Is not mandatory, but I mean it's preferred. The same thing for the product owners. You're right. You are trying to build a product. You know, you need the knowledge of Scrum, right? So there's Scrum for product owners, and then there's Skilled Scrum. So before you can write Skilled Scrum, it is mandatory that you write the SMC, right? Scrum Master certification. Of course, there's also the Skilled Scrum product owner, as well then the expert Scrum Master certified. You can see the mandatory pathways to get into that level, right, from the screen. I mean, more will be said around some of these things and how BNET learning can help you on your journey, right? Scrum Fundamental Certifications talks about a generic certification that is designed to confirm you have basic understanding. I mean, that's just what it is. Who is it suitable for? Solution developers, business analysts, testers, and everyone that wants to play or take a leap of faith into the agile space, right? And we are offering it as a complimentary course to Scrum Certification Course Bootcamp, which you are going to hear more about as we go. Right. The roles, the Scrum Master role. Who is the Scrum Master? Is basically a facilitator who ensures that the Scrum team is provided with an environment conducive to completing the project successfully. I usually say to people, if projects could run themselves successfully, there will be no such roles like project managers or some of the other roles that have been crafted. There will always be issues or potential issues, risk and all of that. Constraint. The Scrum Master is the guy that wants to, ensure that the environment remains conducive. The Scrum Master guides, facilitates, teaches Scrum practices to everyone involved in the organization. I mean, in the project and even in the organization. Yes, you try to precipitate that knowledge across the organization. Of course, you ensure that the processes are being followed. The Scrum Master Certified certification. The objective of this certification is to provide professionals with practical working knowledge of Scrum that equips them to guide and implement Scrum projects in a Scrum environment. So this is a bit the higher level, right? The certificate is targeted at individuals working in Agile environment or organizations, professionals transitioning careers. You want to transit into a Scrum career or into Agile, you can take the professional, you can take this certification. Of course, functional managers who are seeking awareness or knowledge of Agile practices, this is for you. You can jump into it, right? The product owner role is the role that is responsible for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of development. You see, this statement is so deep and broad, right? If you don't understand, you see, it sounds so simple. Maximizing the value of the product, what is so deep, right? Because you are always thinking value, and if you don't have the Agile mindset, you don't have the Scrum knowledge, it's difficult for you to keep yourself in that mindset of value delivery all of the time, right? So the Scrum product owner is that kind of person. At some point you can transit from the entrepreneur to the, different, you wear different caps, as a product owner. I don't want to go into all of that now, but I mean, this is one of the roles within the Scrum team, right? Let's move on. So the Scrum product owner is a certification for you. It provides you practical and working knowledge of Scrum with respect to the ability to handle related business aspects and project stakeholders. Yes, I mean, this summarizes it. There's a business side to this thing. It's not just technology. I've seen a lot of product owners that are fascinated by the ability to ideate or understand technology, but they don't understand the business aspect. They don't understand pricing. They don't understand market dynamics, getting market feedback. This is what this certification does for you. It opens your mind up to all of that. All right. Next one, the Scrum Agile Master, the Agile Lead. I mean, the Agile Master or lead has a well-founded understanding of technology, multiple delivery frameworks, and strategic needs, and is able to conceptualize and implement a variety of Agile methods and values in the organization. I saw a question where someone was asking, how do you determine what kind of framework to implement in your organization? I mean, when you have this understanding of, the Agile Master, you can understand, okay, how do we align strategy? I mean, which of these frameworks aligns with our strategy and the direction we want to go as an organization? I mean, this knowledge helps, builds and establishes Agile practices and processes, and has the ability to compare and choose the Agile methodology appropriate in a given situation. So that's the role of the Agile Master. Of course, there's a certification for that as well, a Scrum study, equipped professionals with a wide range of knowledge and understanding of the values, methods, and intricacies of Agile methodologies, including Scrum. Okay, you are a capacity builder, basically as a Scrum Agile Master. Scrum Developer, of course, I spoke about this already. It is powerful that your developers are the people who do the work of creating value. The software developer, the quality assurance analyst, sometimes your DevOps. In fact, most times your DevOps these days, all the skills that you need to bring something alive, all of them are the development team members. Imagine that every member of your development team understands Scrum. I mean, you're on your way as an organization. So that, I mean, I'm sure I talked about it earlier, there's a certification for the development team as well, within the Scrum study body of knowledge, right? So yeah, there you go, Scrum Developer or Development Team certification. It's an entry-level certification for Scrum team members and those who interact with any Scrum team. So that, for instance, some of the question around why don't they want to come for stand-up? Because they don't understand the value of stand-ups. If they take this certification training, they understand that stand-up is useful to them. It helps them to eliminate unnecessary surprises at the end of the sprint or at the end of the day. It helps them to, adjust themselves, adjust their plans as they go. That's the power of knowledge that I talked about earlier. So there's a certification for development team as well. Yeah. Right. The outlook. Now this is interesting, right? There's so many things jumping at us here. First of all, the job roles. So you can take a job role of a Scrum Master, a delivery lead, a program manager, a project manager, an Agile coach, a project lead. The understanding of Scrum can land you some of these roles. Look at the expected job growth rate between 2016 and 2026, 24%. That's not small, that's big. Average salary, I'm not even going to mention it, you can see it for yourself. Companies that are hiring, of course, reasonable companies. There are a lot of opportunities out there. Right, background of Scrum Masters, information technology, project management, and some come from business analysis, quality assurance, and all of that. Right. Okay. The Scrum guide, the Scrum guide, yeah, this Scrum body of knowledge guide, just to take an overview of it. I mean, basically provides us guidelines for successful implementation of Scrum. Scrum, as defined in this guide, is applicable to the following: portfolios, programs, and or projects in any industry. I mean, differentiating between all of those is key to understanding the implementation of Scrum. Product, services, or any other results to be delivered to stakeholders. Project of any size or complexity. See, the more complex your projects are, the more level of uncertainty you can see, the more you should embrace Scrum. I can tell you that for free, because it helps you through the complexities. Like it's like a mirror that keeps showing you, this is where you can adjust. This is what you can do differently. This is how you can adapt. That's the power of Scrum, right? So the Scrum body of knowledge guide shows us all of that. The Scrum study course content covers a lot of things. I mean, I find it very interesting. It goes from very foundational level and builds consistently, takes you deep into the Scrum knowledge and the Scrum understanding in a very interesting and unique way. You learn about the overview of Agile, overview of Scrum. You understand what the Scrum body of knowledge is. You understand the principles, the Scrum principles. You understand empirical process control, very powerful. You understand time boxing, value-based prioritizations, iterative development. And then, of course, there are Scrum aspects and Scrum fixes and processes and all of that. Transition to Scrum, you learn about how to transit to Scrum. Yes, all of that. All right. Experience sharing. Yeah.
Just before we go there, Damilola, I wanted us, because there's a lot of questions around certifications, and if we could bring John in at this point, let's just take a few questions around certification. And also to say, before we go into that, to everybody on the call, we know we're pressed for time. We'll ensure that in the next couple of minutes we'll be wrapped up. Yeah, so please, I will implore you to please stay till the end of the call, so that we can finish this together. The first question I would like to take, John and Dami for sure, is from Victoria. And Victoria says, is Scrum Fundamental Certification or Scrum Master Certification different from PSM, the Product Owner Certification? Is it different?
Yeah, so I get what Victoria is saying right there. So first thing is, Scrum is one of the most open source frameworks for Agile. So we have, say for example, Skilled Agile Framework is not open source. So that means that James can wake up one day and says, I want to create a certification for SAFe. So it is actually tightly controlled. But Scrum is pretty much open source. So I can wake up today and create my own certification based on the Scrum body of knowledge. So what has happened, or what has evolved from that over the years, is that different organizations that have the credibility have risen up to say, we're also going to create our own Scrum certification. Right, so we've got Scrum Alliance, we've got Scrum Study, Scrum Institute, Scrum.org, and they call the certifications different things, right? So you see CSM from Scrum Alliance, SMC from Scrum Study, PSM from Scrum.org, so there are different ones out there. But at the end of the day, when we sit in interview rooms hiring, candidates, we don't look at the differences as such. We look at what knowledge have you gained and how have you applied them in your work experience over the years. Essentially, because they all point back to the Scrum body of knowledge. And the difference actually is in the quality of coaching you get, not in the organization you get the certification from, essentially. So I hope that helps, because yes, you might actually say, well, should I get a PSM or an SMC or whatever those things are called. So a lot of buzzwords out there on the certifications. It's about the content and the coaching you get, and how you can learn to apply those principles in your day-to-day work. Awesome.
Thank you, John. And I think that really do answer a lot of the questions that I have here. It's a lot of which certification is acceptable across different nations of the world. And you mentioned it is really not about the body, is really the content of your knowledge. The last one I will take before we go to some experience sharing, guys, is it says, what is the average cost of writing these exams? Is it, what will it cost me to be able to write some of the certifications?
Yeah, so the cost varies depending on the organization you actually go to, or depending on the certification you choose. So for example, the SFC, which is the fundamentals, is free, and you folks are going to get that access post this info session. The cost varies from $65, $500-ish, USD, some 400. But I've not seen, apart from SAFe. SAFe is probably the most expensive because it is for advanced practitioners, right? When you have learned the fundamentals of Scrum and Agile, and you want to work on more large-scale, initiatives, safe comes up, and safe is pretty much expensive, right? And that's another conversation altogether. Some of us in the industry have our prohibitions or our fears around how truly agile is safe, but that's another conversation for another day. So for cost, yeah, between the 200 to the 600-ish USD range, that's what we see. But again, it depends on the providers and that you choose and everything. Yeah, I hope that helps, Emeka.
Thank you, John. The last one I want to take is, and I think that's a very important question, and it's from Angela. She says, can we use Scrum in a non-profit making organization? And I know Dami said, you want to go to market, there is the profit mindset for business, but for non-profit organization, their mindset is it's not really profit. So how can you then use Agile within a system that is not profit driven?
Okay,
John.
thanks. Okay, okay.
Oh,
John,
Dami, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dami. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dami.
So the first question to ask yourself is, what exactly represents value for me as an organization, or for my clients? What represents value? Is not profit in this case. What exactly represents value? We said earlier that we have a strong focus on delivering value, and whatever that value is, financial, whatever it is, think about it. The respect we want to have, the impact we want to create around the world for non-profits rather, and all of that. That's the kind of value that can be driven, right, through application of Scrum. So whatever the value is, and that's why it cuts across. It can cut across all kind of industry, really, as long as and the ease of understanding or identifying that value. I gave the example of an elephant earlier, right? Elephant, big value, but using Scrum or using Agile, I can even start to deliver those values quickly in short cycles, and get good feedback along the way. And even that value can now begin to change. You can refine it. It can become something better and that's the power that Scrum brings, the advantage that Scrum gives to you as a practitioner.
Yeah, I like that, Dami, before we pass it on to John. And, as you speak, I begin to wonder, the existence of any organization, be it for profit or non-profit, is for a certain purpose. And it's delivering that purpose that Agile would help you do. How do you ensure that you're delivering your purpose, the why of that organization? Even for a non-profit organization, you are there for a certain good cause. And so Agile will support you in ensuring that good cause is delivered in the best possible way. And that's a really good point, Dami, that you mentioned. And John.
Yeah, I was going to quickly add that, what Dami said, what's the purpose of the startup? So you have to be clear about the value. I think ultimately, Scrum will not be the only tool you need in your toolbox to achieve that. So you've got the lean methodology, which is also Agile, right? So if you are able to find a combination between lean and Scrum, you get the magic you need. But there's so much more. So for Angela, I would recommend books like The Lean Startup, for example. That would really help you. How do you really define the purpose of existence? Build a business model for your nonprofit, because a nonprofit is still a business. It doesn't say nonprofit XYZ. It says nonprofit business. So there's a reason for existence, right? You have a target market that you're solving problems for, right? You probably also make money. Nonprofits actually make money, but they do not declare profits for stakeholders, right? So what's value proposition? What are the channels, right? What are the means? What are the customer relationships? What are your partners, right? So essentially what we're saying is, number one, you can actually apply the idea of Scrum to even test out the operating model of your startup by saying, what is our minimal viable business model that we can actually use to test, run our ideas and find out the validations from the market and see how it works and improve it in increments and iterations, right? So there's so much that we can talk about in that space. But if you have more questions about it, Angela, I'll be glad to chat. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thank you, John. We have just about 10 minutes to wrap up this info session. And I would like for us to, for you guys to share your experience around the implementation of Agile or Scrum in specific. So I want us to go there. But before we do that, I see that Aziza Tijani, she's raising up her hand. Please, if you have a question, just type it right into the chat box. And also to say that in case we do not take your question today, we'll be reaching out to you by email for sure with answers to some of those questions. So let's go right into the experience sharing slide. We'll take this for 5 minutes. We'll come back and wrap up with some next steps as we wind down in this info session. So let's go into the experience sharing slide right now.
Right. John, you want to?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see. Damian, I know you've got a lot of stories in your experience across industries. I've got some stories as well. I think there is a frenzy out in the corporate world about Agile. So everybody wants to be in on this new game, and not everybody is going about it the right way. So there are a lot of factors that actually influence how we can be successful, or what blockers, what challenges we might actually meet along the way while trying to implement Agile. I'll give an example. I've actually worked in 2 different parts of the world, in West Africa, right, and now in North America, right? And I've seen how variables like culture impacts the amount of success, rather, that we can see or find in Agile adoption, right? In cultures that by nature micromanage people, I've seen Scrum really fail. And so that's one thing I was going to just call out. So if by nature we are more inclined towards micromanaging people, bottling their creativity in, I have seen Scrum really fail. But one of the things I'll also add is that, building a solid foundation of knowledge influences how far or how high you can fly as a professional. So certification helps, but don't forget that the certification you get is actually a means to an end, right? So in my experience, I found that when I pursue certification with that clear goal of competence building, capacity building in mind, I will leave my training, I will get my certifications, but still continue to pursue knowledge. So in my experience, that has been very, very important. I think the other thing that comes to my mind right now is adoption across all the value streams of the business. So I've led multi-million-dollar initiatives, I still do, for different entities that I represent. And I can tell you that for one organization where we had, enterprise transformation, we had a transformation program for a couple of years, and we were actually working in a silo. That meant it was mostly the product teams, the technology teams, and a few other teams. We're leaving the business and the commercial part of the business out of the game. We failed. Because it meant that we're coming up with our own idea for them, right? Ideas about what are the things that are valuable for them. Ideas about we are the ones that know the principles, that know the methodologies, right? So we know what to do. But you see, the idea of collaboration over processes is one thing that I've identified in my experience has been very crucial. When you start to apply and implement Scrum, understand that flow of value from beginning to the end. When a customer walks into your organization seeking your service, they not come because they like you. Maybe they like your brand, yeah, but they come to get value. Now, so in implementing Scrum, everybody must have the mindset of value creation across board. And it's not about technology. Technology is an enabler. A lot of times you've seen initiatives fail because we started with the technology conversation. Oh, can we use artificial intelligence or machine learning? Oh, there's some cool ideas and frameworks out there. Or we can use neuro-linguistic programming. Nobody cares about that, right? How many people using iPhones understand what technology powers iPhones? Few, right? So you use Siri, use Alexa, you use all this cool stuff. They don't know about NLP, they don't know about AI or machine learning. They care about the value delivered. So in my experience as well, I found out that focusing on value is really critical. And then for me personally, growing, start with the knowledge, look for the experience. There's a question I see here that I'll probably use this opportunity to answer as well. If I've studied Scrum in college, right, can I put this in my resume? Oh, yes, I can put it. But would that guarantee me a job? Maybe entry-level jobs, yes. So it then becomes important to look for opportunities to get experience if I have the knowledge. So even if it's not a paid opportunity, to be candid. So if I'm probably out of work, I'm looking to make a transition into the world of project delivery with Agile and Scrum. The ideal thing to do will be to get to know what that space is, the skills, the tools, the technology, the processes, the principles. I learn that. I get some more coaching. I find opportunities, if they are paid or non-paid, to build my capacity to use those tools. So I can say, well, I've actually done a lot of story mapping, or I've done a lot of user story writing, or I've done a lot of definition of acceptance criteria, all which are techniques that we use in Scrum or in Agile. So having the knowledge is not enough. Getting your hands dirty is really important in growing your potentials as a professional. So, Dami, I think that's all I've got for now. I'll pass it over to you.
Fantastic thought, John. I mean, so that's about it. I like the talk about understanding the flow of value from beginning to the end. The only thing I want to add to that is having a system thinking, system mindset, systemic thinking, understanding that, I mean, that's one of the things that Scrum does to you. If you have that knowledge, you understand that if this fails, it affects a lot of things down the line. You see, the silo thing you talked about again, is a big problem everywhere that, one of the things that Scrum helps us to solve, right? Or exposes, if I put it that way. So that systemic thinking, right, is a powerful tool that Scrum, in my experience, that Scrum has helped me to drive among my Agile team, or among, in places where I've been privileged to implement Agile. So, I mean, that's just what I want to mention because of time. The ability to think about the system, right?
I know we're almost at time, Dami, but how have you found certifications to be helpful in driving your success as a professional?
Wow. Yeah, so let me just take a minute. Interested. I mean, in so many ways. I could talk about the financial side. I could talk about the leadership opportunities. Let me give an example. I joined an organization, right? And 6 months down the line, based on some of the questions that I started to ask, and because of the knowledge that I have I'd acquired over time, at some point they said to me, look, come on, how do you want to help us with all of this knowledge? And I felt like, okay, I don't know, how do you want me to help you? And then what happened was they created a space, a position to say, okay, step into this role and take over and manage this process for us, just to drive that kind of difference. And I couldn't have done that if I didn't have the right knowledge. I didn't go through the right process, the right training beyond the certification, actually, and of course, a lot of other opportunities that have come. I don't want to talk about the financial, really. It's big. There have been situations where somebody just realizes that, oh, because you've gotten this certification, you've gone through this process, I know that organizations out there will be coming after you. And then without asking, I just get my salary or my pay doubled without asking. I'm not joking. It just comes, you know what, we know that. And then I couldn't believe it. It was the CBAP, John. After the CBAP, I just got that without asking, like that, because they know that once you get those kind of things, the opportunities are endless out there. Yes,
that's awesome, Dami. I was just thinking about this particular slide, what it speaks to about certification actually being a means, not quite the end, because I feel that and this is ironic for us to say as a training provider, but because it is the truth anyways, we say it. There is a craze for certifications that is not backed up by value today, and that is not what we are preaching. Unfortunately, people will just get the certifications and they won't be able to defend it. In the last 2 days, I sat in and I've led 4 different interview sessions. And you compare the resume you saw, which was so awesome, so great, to the presentation, and there are gaps. And that is not the end point we are looking. We are hoping to help you achieve. Really, we want you to actually get the knowledge, have the proof of certification and knowledge, but go on that journey to truly build the skills that matter for you. Right. So we share this deck, and you can look at this some more and reach out if you have more questions for us. The other thing that I was going to add, Dami, is always be true to yourself about where exactly you are at in your journey. If you don't qualify for a senior level of certification, don't go for it because that's the in thing. That's what my friends are doing. It's gonna give speed up challenges for you when you get into the job market. So you probably you're certified as a skilled Scrum product owner or as a CBAP, but your experience is at the entry level essentially. How do you close the gaps? But we can have more conversations via coaching about how do you really do this, but be very true to yourself about where exactly you are at in your journey. And James, I know you wanted to speak to the next steps.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important for me to say thank you, Damilola. It was such, I know we had to push through the slides because of time, but let me say thank you so much, Damilola, for taking the time to join. And of course, to John, you've always been there and remained there as the leader of the team. And we want to say thank you for awesome contributions. I know, of course, that the attendees on this call are delighted, and I'm sure that we would continue this conversation offline as many that can reach out to us. Just as next steps, guys, I wanted everyone on the call to be aware of what we expect will happen. John, you mentioned the importance of certification, but then there are gaps a lot of the time to what you have as a certification to what you can actually deliver in the job. And that's where BNET comes to play, that we can actually mentor you. We have several people, leaders within BNET, trainers within BNET with over 10, 15, 20 years experience in diverse fields. And that's what BNET is offering, that you can reach out to us and say, you know what, like Angela said, she said, I just got, a higher position and I'm leading teams and I don't know what to do. Reach out to BNET and we would be able to help you and support you in some of the things you need to deliver. The other thing BNET is also doing is, of course, the training programs. We have quite a lot of training programs on Scrum. We have a training that is scheduled to happen at the end of this month. So we'll encourage as many on the call today to be part of that training. It's a Scrum Master certification training, and we are asking and imploring you to take the time to come and learn and be better and know the knowledge and have the knowledge of Scrum. So that training will be happening at the end of this month, January. And I can't say it enough. Please find time to join. It's going to be 2 weekends, and you'll be glad you did. The next thing we're also building as BNET Learning is community. Besides, a one-time support or mentoring that you need, you also need a community base. People you can reach out to from time to time, info sessions you can join like this, master classes that you can join like this one to just sharpen your skills and your tool. It's not necessarily that you need to want to write an exam or do a certification, that you interact with knowledgeable minds. You want to do that as often as possible. And that's what BNET provides, that community that you can always reach out to, you can be part of to develop your skill. And of course, BNET supports small businesses around the world to say, you know what, I'm starting off this business, or I'm in my 3-year, 5-year of this business. I want to leapfrog to the next step. What else can I do? Those are some of the things BNET would support you with, sitting down with you, walking through the process of leapfrogging and making your business better through business advisory. So we encourage you to please reach out to us, info@bnetlearning.com. That is info, INFO, @bnetlearning.com. Or you could reach out directly to John by his email. You did get his email from the meeting invite for this info session. And of course, you can go onto our website, www.bnetlearning.com, to have more information on how you can reach out to us. And that is it for today. I know we passed a little bit over time. We apologize for that. The other thing I would like to say before we close today, and of course, I'll let John have the final word, is that this is just the first of our info session. How better can we have started this year, 2021, with speaking about Scrum and Agile and becoming agility, having that agility that we need in business. How better can we start 2021? So I'm so excited, but please be aware that this is just first amongst many info sessions that we'll have from the stable of BNET Learning. So look forward to that as we send emails, or go to our website to see when next we'll have an info session or a masterclass, and we look forward to you joining. So John, I will pass it on to you just for 1-2 minutes for final remarks as we shut down in this info session.
Yeah, thank you, James. I've learned a lot myself. You never stop learning, right? And the quality of the questions I've been asked from everybody, Emeka, Angela, Mara, everybody, Yemi, I think it's been really great to see all that. So thank you so much. At BNET Learning, we are really committed to helping people not just survive, but thrive professionally in their careers, individual lives. So you're going to definitely, like James said, hear more from us, more programs, more initiatives. The year 2021 has just started. If you're part of our event in December, we titled it Finishing Strong, right? Now I want to start the year even stronger, and we're hoping that you can actually take the motivation from here and really prioritize your goals around developing yourself and defining better outcomes for yourself for the year and beyond, essentially. So look out for more information from us. You're going to get emails, like James said earlier on, around the continuous development unit, because you've earned it. You spent an hour and a half, in this session. So you can apply that to your other professional development engagements. And the SFC free course, don't forget that. That's up for your taking. So when you get the mail, look up our mail. You have the directions that you need to actually go through to get the Scrum Fundamental Certification for free. So that being said, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you, hearing from all of you folks. If you are on LinkedIn, reach out and connect with us on LinkedIn. Let's keep the conversations going. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Damilola, for taking the time to join us today. Thank you to all the leaders and team within BNET Learning. We really appreciate that everyone on the call could join. To everybody that took the time, to all of the attendees, we say thank you for joining today. We appreciate that you took the time to join. And we look forward, of course, to seeing you during our next info session or masterclass. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.